The Third Door, the wild quest to uncover how the world's most successful people launched their careers, by Alex Banayan. Alex, Bill is ready for you. Picture this moment. You're frozen in place, staring at a massive frosted glass door. Behind it stands someone who didn't just shake up an industry, he rewired the entire world, Bill Gates himself. You've spent years chasing this dream. You've pulled off game show heists, hidden in bathrooms like a sitcom character, and literally stalked billionaires through grocery aisles to reach this point. And now, here it is. The door swings open. There he stands, hair doing its own thing, casually sipping a Diet Coke, and he smiles at you. "Hey there," he says warmly. "Come on in." What question would tumble out of your mouth? What secret would you be desperate to discover? For a kid named Alex Banayan, this was the crescendo of an absolutely bonkers quest. A quest that didn't start in some fancy boardroom but in a cramped freshman dorm room, staring at the ceiling, feeling completely and utterly lost. He was the son of Iranian immigrants who'd given up everything for his future. The script was crystal clear: become a doctor, period. But every time he cracked open those biology textbooks, he felt his soul slowly deflating. The path everyone had mapped out for him felt like he was wearing someone else's life. He was drowning in questions that kept him up at night. What do I actually want to do with my life? How did the people I look up to, the Bill Gateses, the Steven Spielbergs, how did they pull it off? What were their first moves when they were nobodies just like me? He went hunting for a book with these answers. It didn't exist. So with the beautiful recklessness of an 18-year-old, he decided to create it himself. This is the story of that wild ride. It's a journey that reveals something hidden about success, a truth that the world's most legendary figures have quietly understood. It's this idea that life, business, success, they're all like trying to get into an exclusive nightclub. There's the first door, the main entrance where 99% of people stand in line, hoping they'll eventually get in. There's the second door, the VIP entrance where billionaires and celebrities slip past the velvet rope. But here's what nobody tells you. There's always a third door. It's the one where you break from the line, sprint down the alley, pound on the door until your knuckles hurt, jimmy open a window and slide through the kitchen. There's always another way in. Today, we're going to walk through that third door together. By the time we're done, you won't just know the origin stories of legends. You'll understand the mindset that transforms impossible into inevitable. You'll realize that the power to reshape your life isn't found by waiting patiently in line, but by finding the courage to forge your own entrance. Our story kicks off where so many great adventures begin, in a state of quiet panic. Alex Banayan sits in his dorm room at USC, crushed between the weight of his parents, dreams, and the echoing emptiness of his own confusion. He's supposed to be on the doctor track, validating his family's sacrifice of fleeing Iran and rebuilding everything in America. But every time he looks at those textbooks, he feels like someone's slowly draining the color from his world. Lying in bed one night, ceiling gazing, he asks the question that's haunted countless young people: what do I actually want to do with my life? Looking for an escape, he wanders into the university library and grabs a Bill Gates biography. He's hooked. How did some kid his age go on to build the most valuable company on the planet? He tears through more biographies. Steven Spielberg, Lady Gaga. He keeps searching for the answer to one question: how did they actually get started? Not the polished PR version, but the real messy, improbable story. The one where they were broke, unknown, and had every reason to fail. When he realizes that book doesn't exist, a crazy idea sparks. If nobody's written the book I'm dying to read, why not write it myself? It's a mission born from pure curiosity. He'll track down the most successful people alive, interview them, and share their secrets with his generation. He makes his dream list: Bill Gates for business, Steven Spielberg for film, Lady Gaga for music. There's just one tiny problem. Missions like this require money, and he's a broke college student. This is where Alex takes his first leap off the conventional path. 2 nights before his final exams, instead of cramming biology, he's scrolling through Facebook and spots an ad for free tickets to The Price is Right. A wild thought strikes. What if I go on that show and win enough money to fund my mission? It's absurd. He has a 0.3% chance of even being selected. The worst-case scenarios are terrifying. Bomb his finals, destroy any chance of med school, and worst of all, face the wrath of his Persian mother. But the best-case scenario, it's the key to everything. He decides to do the sensible thing and study, but he doesn't study for his finals. He spends the entire night figuring out how to hack The Price is Right. He discovers that contestants aren't randomly selected. A producer named Stan interviews everyone and picks the most energetic personalities. Alex knows he needs to stand out like a neon sign. He throws on his brightest red shirt, a puffy jacket, and neon sunglasses. He looks, in his own words, like a chubby toucan. At the studio, he's a hurricane of energy, hugging security guards, breakdancing with janitors. When he finally gets face-to-face with Stan, he's ready. But his jokes land with a thud. He can feel the opportunity evaporating. In a moment of desperation, he remembers reading that physical contact builds rapport. "Stan!" he shouts. "I want to make a secret handshake with you." Stan rolls his eyes but plays along. Still not enough. Stan starts walking away. The dream is dying right before his eyes. So Alex does the only thing his panicked brain can conjure. He screams, "Stan!" The entire audience whips around. Stan rushes back, completely bewildered. Alex's mind goes blank. He scans Stan frantically and notices his plain red scarf. "Your scarf!" Alex yells. "Stan, I'm an avid scarf collector. I have 362 of them, and I'm missing that exact one. Where did you get it?" The tension shatters like glass. Stan bursts out laughing. He gets the joke. He winks at his assistant. Alex's name is on the list. He makes it on the show, and through a combination of pure luck, crowdsourced wisdom from an old woman who's basically a Price is Right encyclopedia, and his own chaotic energy, he reaches the final round. He's up against a woman named Tanisha, a pricing wizard who's dominated the competition. The final showcase is a whirlwind of prizes, a theme park adventure, a Florida vacation, and a gorgeous, gleaming sailboat. Alex has absolutely no idea what any of it costs. He listens to the audience shouting numbers, makes a wild guess, and holds his breath. Tanisha's showcase retail price is revealed. She's close, very close. It seems impossible for Alex to win. Then they reveal his number. He guessed $30,000. The actual retail price is $31,188. He beat Tanisha by just $145. Alex launches himself from his podium, hugs the models, and runs to his shiny new sailboat. He's actually done it. He sold the sailboat for $16,000. The mission is funded. This first adventure teaches him something profound. He didn't win by waiting his turn. He won by ditching the line and finding another way in. He didn't realize it yet, but he'd just discovered the third door. With cash in his pocket, Alex faces his next obstacle, his parents. He tells them he's switching from pre-med to business. His mother is devastated. "If you're not going to be a doctor," she asks, voice cracking, "what are you going to do with your life?" His honest answer, "I don't know," only makes things worse. He even calls his grandmother, his lifelong ally, hoping for backup. But she sides with his mother. She makes him swear on her life, Junaman, the most sacred promise in Persian culture, that he'll at least finish his undergraduate degree and get a master's. He reluctantly promises. Determined to prove everyone wrong, he sets up mission headquarters in his mom's tiny, cobweb-filled storage closet. He fills the shelves with books about his heroes, building a foundation of knowledge. He gathers his closest friends, and together they brainstorm their dream professors for an imaginary university. Bill Gates for business, Warren Buffett for finance, Steven Spielberg for film. The first real test arrives quickly. A USC administrator tells him that Steven Spielberg will be at a private fundraising event on campus. Students are absolutely forbidden from attending and pitching donors, but she offers to sneak him in as her assistant. Once you're inside, she warns, you're on your own. Alex prepares obsessively, watching every Spielberg movie and reading a 600-page biography. At the event, dressed in his only suit, he's surrounded by Hollywood royalty. 10 feet away stands Steven Spielberg himself, chatting with George Lucas. Alex freezes solid. A paralyzing fear he calls the flinch takes over. It's the same feeling he had as a kid, when he was terrified of standing out. The same fear of rejection that shadowed him his whole life. Before he can make a move, Spielberg is whisked away. The party seems to orbit around him, and Alex can't find an opening. He retreats to the bathroom, watching his dream slip through his fingers. He thinks about how Spielberg himself got his start. As a young man, Spielberg jumped off a tour bus at Universal Studios, snuck around the lot, and befriended an executive named Chuck Silvers, his inside man, who got him a 3-day pass. For the next 3 months, Spielberg showed up in a suit every single day, waved confidently at the security guard, and walked right through the gates. He took his education into his own hands. Alex realizes he's trying to pull a Spielberg on Spielberg. The most crucial step was finding that inside man. The administrator was his. Now he just needed to conquer the flinch. He spots Spielberg heading for the exit. It's now or never. He chases after him, heart pounding like a drum. "Excuse me, Mr. Spielberg," he stammers. "Can I ask you a quick question as you head to your car?" Spielberg stops. He turns, and he gives Alex a hug. "I've been on a college campus for hours, and you're the first student I've seen all day." Spielberg says warmly, "I'd love to hear your question." The flinch melts away like snow and sunshine. Alex passionately explains his mission. He asks for an interview. Spielberg tells him he normally says no, but for some reason, he's going to give him a maybe. "Go out and get your other interviews," he says kindly. "Then come back to me. I believe in you." It's a moment of pure triumph. Spielberg even calls his assistant over to get Alex's information. But just as Alex hands over his homemade business card, the film school dean appears out of nowhere. "No!" she yells, snatching the card from his hand. She tears into him, telling him, "We don't tolerate this type of behavior," and sends Spielberg's assistant away without his contact information. She points toward the exit. "There are rules here," she says coldly. Crushed but not defeated, Alex seeks inspiration and finds it in a book his friend Brandon gave him, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Ferriss becomes his new hero, a master of hacking broken systems. The book overflows with unconventional wisdom, but one line hits Alex like lightning. The opposite of happiness isn't sadness, it's boredom. The cure is excitement. Ferriss shoots to the top of his interview list. Alex remembers that a man he met at a business conference, Caesar, is the COO of DonorsChoose.org, a nonprofit where Ferriss sits on the advisory board. Caesar is his inside man. Caesar gets Alex's request to Ferriss, but weeks crawl by with no reply. Then Alex sees that Ferriss is speaking at a conference in San Francisco. He books a flight immediately, determined to meet him face to face. At the conference, he realizes hundreds of other people have the exact same plan. To reach Ferriss before the stampede, he finds a bathroom next to the stage. He hides in a stall, crouching by the toilet, listening to Ferriss's speech through the wall so he can time his exit perfectly. The moment the applause erupts, he bursts out of the bathroom and finds Ferriss standing alone, just 2 feet away. The flinch strikes again, his mouth is wired shut. Desperate, he shoves a Donors Choose gift card at Ferriss's face. It works. Ferriss recognizes the logo and asks how he knows the organization. Alex explains his mission, and Ferriss seems genuinely impressed. He says he'll be in touch. But days turn into weeks. Alex, believing persistence is everything, sends email after email, 31 in total. Eventually, he gets a firm no from Ferriss's assistant. He's confused. What went wrong? He doesn't realize that Ferris had already declined the initial request, and his relentless emailing was only making things worse. Then, completely out of the blue, Ferris says yes. Alex is ecstatic, thinking his persistence finally paid off. He only learns years later that Ferris had actually called the CEO of Donors Choose to complain about him. Thankfully, the CEO vouched for Alex, saying his heart was in the right place. That's what changed Ferris's mind. During the phone interview, Alex asks Ferris about persistence. Ferris tells him the story of how he landed his first job by repeatedly emailing a CEO. But then his tone shifts. There's a fine line between being persistent and being a hassle, he says pointedly. If you sense someone getting annoyed, you need to back off. It's a jab, a clear message about Alex's own behavior, but at the time, it flies completely over his head. It's a lesson he won't truly grasp until it's far too late. The journey continues, filled with glimmers of hope and crushing rejections. His inside man at Microsoft, Stefan Weitz, arranges an interview with Qi Lu, the president of Microsoft's online services division. Qi Lu grew up in a poor Chinese village with no running water. He re-engineered his sleep schedule, surviving on just 4 hours a night, creating what his colleagues called Qi time. This discipline gave him 2 extra months of productivity every year. He tells Alex, "Luck is like a bus. If you miss one, there's always another. But if you're not prepared, you won't be able to jump on." Qi Lu was always prepared. And it's Qi Lu who offers to forward Alex's interview request directly to Bill Gates. A few days later, an email arrives. Gates's office cannot accommodate this request. He's devastated, but his new inside man at Microsoft manages to arrange a call with Bill Gates's chief of staff. The chief of staff loves the mission idea but delivers hard truth. "You're only about 5% there. I just can't take this to Bill. You don't have enough momentum. Get a publishing deal from a major publisher, get more interviews done, and then we can talk." Momentum. The word echoes in his head. How does a 19-year-old engineer momentum? He remembers reading about a young entrepreneur named Elliot Bisnow, who started an event series that brought together people like Bill Clinton and Richard Branson. Elliot was only 25. He seemed to be the king of momentum. Alex crafts the perfect cold email, and to his astonishment, Elliot replies. They agree to meet Thursday morning at a hotel. There's just one problem. Thursday is the day of Alex's accounting final. Missing it means failing the course. He chooses the meeting. Elliot Bisnow is intense, sharp, and never seems to blink. He spends the first few minutes of their meeting glued to his phone, barely making eye contact. Then he starts firing questions like bullets. He's testing Alex. At the end of their meeting, he lays down 5 rules for life. Rule number 1, never use your phone in a meeting. It makes you look like a chump. Rule number 2, act like you belong. Peers shake hands. Fans ask for pictures. Rule number 3, mystery makes history. Don't broadcast everything you do online. Rule number 4, the most important, if you break my trust, you're finished. Be a vault. And rule number 5, adventures only happen to the adventurous. Elliot invites Alex to stick around for the day. That day transforms into a week-long whirlwind across Europe. Elliot is spontaneous, booking flights to London and then Barcelona on pure whim. He teaches Alex that business isn't about stiff suits and formal meetings. It's about building genuine relationships. He makes Alex tell his Price is Right story over and over to strangers in a nightclub, helping him wear down the flinch and master the art of storytelling. In New York, at sunset on a rooftop lounge, Elliot gives him the key to everything. He explains that most people live a linear life, going step by step. But successful people, he says, don't buy into that model. They opt into an exponential life. Rather than going step by step, they skip steps. The only person whose permission you need to live an exponential life is your own. Then, he makes Alex an offer. Quit your mission and come work for me. I'll get you all your interviews, we'll hire a ghostwriter, and you can get in the game. It's an incredible offer. Everything Alex dreamed of being handed to him on a silver platter. But it means giving up his mission, the very thing that gave him purpose. He's torn in half. He flies with Elliot to a summit event in Eden, Utah. It's a magical world of entrepreneurs, artists, and innovators. He's bouncing around in a pinball machine of inspiration. He meets Miki Agrawal, who started a gluten-free pizzeria and the underwear line THINX, and Ben Nimpton from MTV's The Buried Life. Their stories of chasing dreams pull him one direction, while Elliot's tempting offer pulls him the other. He confides in another attendee, a man he calls Dan Babcock, who claims to have worked for Warren Buffett. Dan gives him advice he attributes to Buffett. Write down 25 things you want to accomplish. Circle the top 5. Those 5 are your priority list. The other 20 become your avoidance list. The key to accomplishing your top 5 priorities, Dan says, is to avoid the other 20. Success is a result of prioritizing your desires. Alex looks at his lists. Working for Elliot lands on the avoidance list. The mission sits on the priority list. He knows what he has to do. He tells Elliot he can't accept his offer. He has to see the mission through. He expects Elliot to be angry, but instead Elliot puts a hand on his shoulder. If that's what you have to do, he says, then that's your decision, and I respect you even more for making it. With renewed focus, Alex returns to his mission. He needs a literary agent to get the publishing deal that will unlock the door to Bill Gates. After 19 rejections, he feels hopeless. But his new friends from Summit, Miki and Ben, introduce him to their agents. After more twists and turns, he gets a yes. He has an agent. But then both new agents rescind their offers. Their boss decided he wasn't worth the time. He's crushed. It feels like the ultimate rejection. His friend Brandon calls and tells him a story about Walmart trying to compete with Amazon. The moral: you can't out-Amazon Amazon. Brandon tells him, you've been trying to copy other people's playbooks. You can't out-Ferris Tim Ferriss. You have to go all in on what makes you unique. That night, at 3 a.m, Alex writes a raw, passionate, completely unpolished email to the one agent on his list he was too terrified to even approach. He pours his heart onto the screen. He doesn't follow a template. He's just himself. A day later, she replies, "Call me." She offers to be his agent on the spot. Soon after, he gets the publishing deal. The impossible has happened. He emails Bill Gates' chief of staff with the news, expecting celebration. The reply is just 2 words: congratulations. Then, silence. The chief of staff has gone dark. Alex realizes that even with a publishing deal, the door to Gates remains closed. He feels like a complete failure. Desperate, he decides to go after Warren Buffett instead. After all, Dan Babcock, the man who gave him the avoidance list advice, promised to help. This begins the most miserable 6 months of his life. He sends letter after letter to Buffett, each one met with a polite but firm no. Dan keeps encouraging him to be more persistent, more creative. He tells Alex to send flowers to Buffett's assistant. Then he tells him to mail her a single shoe with a note that says, "Just trying to get my foot in the door." Alex feels uneasy, but he's desperate and trusts his mentor. The assistant's reply is devastating. "I hope you will accept this no, as I really can't respond to any more notes from you." He's been blacklisted. He flies to Omaha during a massive snowstorm, hoping to accidentally bump into Buffett. He ends up alone in a Motel 6, eating airplane peanuts for dinner, watching a cockroach crawl across the carpet. He has hit absolute rock bottom. He feels more alone than ever. He has failed. It's here, in the depths of despair, that the journey takes another turn. He interviews inventor Dean Kamen, creator of the Segway. Alex asks him how you know when to keep fighting and when to give up. Kamen's answer is brutally honest. "I don't know." He tells Alex that if you want to do big things, you have to be prepared to trudge through mud. But he offers crucial advice. First, figure out how many kinds of frogs there are, and then see if you can kiss one of each kind. Instead of repeating the same failed approach, try something new. Alex had been trying to get a one-on-one interview with Buffett. What if he reframed the problem? What if he just needed Buffett to answer his questions, no matter how or where? There was one frog he hadn't kissed, the Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting. Buffett's assistant, perhaps out of pity, gives him 6 passes. He brings his friends. They discover that the lottery to ask questions isn't one big lottery, but a dozen smaller ones at different microphone stations. They realize the stations in the nosebleed seats have far fewer entries. They sprint to Station 8, put all their names in, and against all odds, 4 of them draw winning tickets. It's a disaster. Their questions, which Alex carefully crafted, backfire spectacularly. Andre's question sounds like an accusation. Alex asks about the avoidance list, and Buffett chuckles. I'm actually more curious about how you came up with it. It really isn't the case. The entire stadium laughs at him. He's publicly humiliated. After the event, his friend Kevin poses a simple, devastating question. What if it wasn't Buffett who lied? The truth comes crashing down. Dan Babcock never worked for Warren Buffett. He was a fraud. Alex feels betrayed, but also realizes his own desperation and dishonesty bred more dishonesty. Desperation clogs intuition. He's at his lowest point when, in a moment of pure serendipity, he spots Larry King walking out of a grocery store. After a comically awkward chase, he secures an invitation to breakfast. At that breakfast, he meets Cal Fussman, a legendary writer for Esquire. Cal becomes a new mentor, teaching him the art of the interview. The secret, Cal says, isn't having perfect questions written on a notepad. It's about being comfortable, being yourself, and letting your natural curiosity lead the way. Alex finally understands. For the past year, he'd been just a random name in an inbox to Bill Gates' chief of staff. He hadn't been a human being. He needed to meet him in person. Through his inside man at Microsoft, he arranges a 5-minute meeting with the chief of staff at the TED conference. It's his final bullet. There's a mix-up. Alex goes to the wrong coffee shop and misses the meeting. He's devastated. But he gets a second chance. A car ride to the airport with the chief of staff. In the car, he starts listing his accomplishments, trying to demonstrate momentum. But then something unexpected happens. It's not about the names, he says, voice full of genuine passion. It's about sharing wisdom with the next generation. The chief of staff cuts him off. All right, he says, I've heard enough. We're in. The Bill Gates interview is scheduled. Before the meeting, Alex obsesses over finding the holy grail of advice, but the interview becomes a blur. Gates talks at double speed, burying him in technical details. Alex asks about sales and negotiation, but the answers fly over his head. He's so focused on finding a secret checklist that he misses the profound wisdom Gates is actually sharing. Choose long-term positioning over short-term profits. Figure out your opponent's fears, and build genuine relationships so you don't even have to negotiate. With 1 minute left, frustrated, Alex tosses his notepad aside and asks a simple question. What's your most memorable, crazy, funny hustle story? Gates lights up like a Christmas tree. The tension shatters. He tells hilarious stories about negotiating with Japanese companies. For the first time, it doesn't feel like an interview. It feels like 3 guys having fun. And just as things start feeling right, it's over. Alex walks away feeling like he failed to get the Holy Grail. Months later, he's still reeling from rejections. Even Spielberg says no. He calls Elliot, frustrated. I thought after Bill Gates everything would fall into place, he says. You idiot, Elliot tells him. I told you there is no tipping point. It's all just little steps. A tipping point only appears in hindsight. Being an entrepreneur is about pushing, not tipping. This is the final piece of the puzzle. Alex finally gets it. It's not about one big break. It's about the relentless, daily push. It's about building a pipeline and thinking differently. This new mindset leads him to a concert in New York, where Elliot introduces him to Matt Mickelson, the man who created Lady Gaga's social network. Matt becomes a new mentor. And one night, At a nightclub in Austin, Matt pulls him through the crowd, past the bouncers, and onto a VIP platform. He puts his arms around Alex and Lady Gaga and says, "LG, remember that story I told you about that kid who hacked The Price is Right? Well, he's standing right here." Lady Gaga turns, eyes wide, and gives him a giant hug. The journey comes full circle. When Gaga faces a PR crisis, Matt asks Alex for his perspective. Alex, drawing on everything he's learned, delivers a brilliant analysis of Gaga's career as an act of, quote, creative rebellion. His insights are so powerful that Gaga uses them as the core narrative for her comeback. He's no longer just the kid asking for help. He's in the game, contributing, making a real difference. On the plane home from that trip, it all clicks into place. He thinks of a quote from Harry Potter: "It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities." Chilu's discipline was a choice. Sugar Ray's relentless training was a choice. Bill Gates picking up the phone in his dorm room was a choice. Steven Spielberg jumping off that tour bus was a choice. The third door isn't a secret passageway that only a lucky few get to use. It's a mindset. It's a choice. It's the choice to jump out of line, to reject the notion that you have to wait your turn, and to believe that there's always another way in. And in the end, Alex realizes the Holy Grail was never going to be a single piece of advice from Bill Gates. The real treasure was the journey itself. The rejections, the mistakes, the humiliation, that's what transformed him. As Quincy Jones told him, "Your mistakes are your greatest gift." Success and failure aren't opposites. They're both just results of trying. And when you change what you believe is possible, you change what becomes possible. When you finish a story like The Third Door, it's tempting to focus on the big, flashy moments. The game show wins, the celebrity encounters, the dramatic confrontations. But the real heart of this book, the lesson that sticks with you long after, is much quieter and far more profound. It's about what happens in the moments between the highlights. It's about the silent decision to study for a game show instead of an exam. It's about the courage it takes to write that 3 a.m. email when you feel like a complete fraud. It's about the resilience to get up and keep running after you've been publicly humiliated in front of 30,000 people. Alex Banayan's journey teaches us that success isn't a lottery ticket. It's not about waiting for a lucky break or being born into the right family. It's a process. A messy, frustrating, and often lonely process of pushing, probing, and creating your own opportunities. The concept of the third door is more than just a clever metaphor for hustle. It's a fundamental shift in perspective. It's the realization that the path laid out for you, the first door, isn't the only path available. Society often presents us with a very linear model for success. Go to school, get the right degree, climb the corporate ladder, wait your turn. But the people who achieve extraordinary things understand that this model is a suggestion, not a mandate. They see the world not as a set of rigid rules, but as a system of movable pieces. Where one person sees a closed door, they see a window to climb through, a kitchen to sneak past, or a bouncer to befriend. This isn't about breaking rules for the sake of it. It's about understanding that the most rewarding paths are often the ones you have to carve out for yourself. What I find most powerful about this book is its honesty. Alex doesn't present himself as a superhero. He shows us his fear, his naivete, his embarrassing mistakes. He shows us what it's like to be betrayed by a mentor, to be blacklisted by a hero, and to feel so utterly alone that a cockroach in a Motel 6 feels like company. And in doing so, he gives us the greatest gift of all, permission to be imperfect. He shows us that the path to success isn't a straight line. It's a jagged, winding road filled with mud, and the only way forward is to keep trudging. So how can you apply this today? Here are a few simple ways to start thinking like a third-door adventurer. First, identify a first door in your own life. Is there a goal where you feel like you're just waiting in line? A job application, a college admission, a creative project? Ask yourself, what's the alleyway? Is there an unconventional approach you haven't considered? Could you volunteer, create a small project to demonstrate your skills, or find a different way to get your foot in the door. Second, find your inside person. Success is rarely a solo endeavor. Look at your network. Who knows someone who knows someone? Don't ask for a huge favor. As Tim Ferriss taught, ask for small, specific advice. A warm introduction, no matter how tenuous, is infinitely more powerful than a cold email. And third, embrace the lesson Quincy Jones shared with Alex. Cherish your mistakes. Every misstep, every moment of failure isn't an endpoint. It's data, it's a lesson. The only true failure is the failure to try. Stop seeing success and failure as opposites. See them as two sides of the same coin called growth. In the end, the third door is a powerful reminder that the future isn't something that happens to us. It's something we create. We create it with our choices, our courage, and our relentless belief in possibility. That was our journey through the third door by Alex Banayan. We've explored the core narrative and the incredible lessons learned along the way, but I'll be honest with you, a summary is like looking at a photograph of a beautiful landscape. The real magic happens when you experience it for yourself. It's in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about today has sparked a fire in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see the doors in your own life. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you a new perspective, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book from the Billionaire's Bookshelf. Your support helps us continue this journey of learning and discovery. Let's keep growing together.